In the beginning, there were humble plumbers and spunky fantasy heroes. These were the building blocks for what we would come to know as video games. These franchises would go on to define the industry in a way that would separate it from the toys they were thought to be. Both Super Mario Bros. And The Legend of Zelda told grand stories of fantastic worlds and saving beautiful princesses from evil creatures trying to take over the world. They used bright, colorful sprites and upbeat music to help engage the player in their respective worlds. These tunes are classics, and many of us could replay them in our heads just by memory. The staying power of these titles is insane, and it really goes to show just how talented these developers were, especially working on the limited hardware that they had available. Due to that limited hardware, games had to be carefully created so that not too much was going on screen at one time. If too much stuff did happen on screen at once, there was significant slowdown, and the game would run at an absolute crawl. If you've ever been playing the original Zelda, and you enter a room with one heart left, and you see a ton of enemies, you might get scared. So, you decide to leave the room, and the screen transition takes forever. That's what I'm talking about. Now, while these games are great, and are genre-defining titles in their own rights, with all due respect, Mario and Zelda don't have whole genres named after them. No, that honor goes to one Metroid. Metroid is the first half of the Metroidvania genre, and in my opinion, it's first because it's better. And probably because Castleoid didn't sound as appealing. Although, that would be an awesome title for a game, so someone should make that. But the Metroidvania genre, defined by Urban Dictionary, is Metroidvania is supposed to be a 2D video game style in which the gameplay is focused on considerably non-linear exploration, item retrieval, and proper usage of these items in order to fulfill the game's primary objective and achieve the desired outcome. A combination of Metroid and Castlevania, coined after Symphony of the Night, Castlevania game, because the exploration aspect of the game. It's a stupid term because games that could be described this way were around before there ever was a Metroid or Castlevania game. Wow, that was harsh. Someone's not a fan of Metroid. Let's see what the next one is. A garbage term for a genre that was created entirely by Metroid and for which Castlevania deserves no credit for. Metroidvanias are characterized by their open world environments and their use of upgrades that slowly make more areas of the map accessible. Most games in the genre are two-dimensional. Okay, so the exact opposite of the first one. This person loves Metroid. And these were written 10 years apart. It's crazy after a decade that we still can't agree on this stuff. Well, it seems like you get the gist of what the genre is. And if not, my own summary is that it's a game where exploration is a key focus of the adventure, and in order to progress through the world, one must obtain character upgrades that allow them to pass through obstacles, and they are mostly in 2D. While games like this did exist before Metroid, in my opinion, Metroid is what made them mainstream. Nintendo was so popular that all of their first-party games seemed to be doing really well for them. They felt confident that they could release something a little bit different than their colorful, upbeat, and happy games from before, like Mario and Zelda. It was time to introduce the world to something a little more somber, something a little more immersive, something scary. It was the first Metroid. Something that's been lost on many modern gamers is the concept and idea of instruction manuals. It's a concept that's kind of been lost on everyone, actually. Nothing needs to come with an instruction manual anymore. Everyone can just download the PDF for their appliance or find a YouTube tutorial for any problems that they might be having. But regardless, video games used to come with instruction manuals. These booklets would describe what each button did, how to play the game, what the power-ups were, what they did, and most importantly, these instruction manuals held integral story threads within their pages. Without reading the instruction manual first, you were at a severe disadvantage when the game started up. These books were just as much a part of the game as any tutorial or cutscene is today. Imagine just skipping the intro of a game like Portal 2, Uncharted 2, Bioshock, or God of War. The whole tone of the game would be completely off, and the payoff at the end would be nowhere near as impactful. This is what instruction booklets did for games in the early years of storytelling through this medium. Metroid especially has a fascinating story wrapped up in its manual. It speaks of a galactic organization that was able to create peace in the galaxy, but that all changed when the space pirates attacked. They would attack ships going back and forth from the peaceful planets out of nowhere. Separately, some researchers found their way to a planet named SR-388. There was a research station there that held important information regarding a new life form. The planet was devastated, and no other signs of life existed there. The researchers deduced that it was due to this new life form that all other life was exterminated. The researchers named this life form Metroid. As the researchers were transporting the Metroids to Earth for further study, the space pirates attacked the ship, stole the Metroids, and took it to their fortress homeworld, Zebes. This was an especially dangerous situation. The Galactic Police knew that they could only count on one person to retrieve the Metroid and destroy the pirates once and for all. They called Samus Aran, as he was the most dangerous bounty hunter in all of outer space. Yes, he. That's what it says in the book. Samus descends into the planet to fight the pirates, destroy their leader, and get the dangerous Metroids back into responsible Galactic Federation hands. Wow, that's a great setup. Imagine if you had just started up the game and had no context and just went straight into it. You'd be so lost. You'd have no clue what your mission is, who you're playing as, and why you're doing what you're doing. The manual also has invaluable tips on where some upgrades are, a basic map of the planet, and how to access the pirate's leader, Mother Brain. We also learn of two sub-bosses, Ridley and Kraid. By reading through this manual, we learn how this world works, and it really does an amazing job of setting your expectation of what's to come, and lets you use your imagination to fill in the gap. Once you beam down to the planet, it's up to Sammy to explore the world and see what he can find. Samus explores the fortress room by room to find upgrades for the power suit. First, there are missiles. Missiles are not only a powerful weapon to fight the enemy with, but they are also incredibly useful for traversal and exploration. There are rooms locked with red doors hidden throughout the fortress. These can only be unlocked by blasting them with 5 missiles. Often, there are even more useful suit upgrades hidden behind these doors. As you progress through the world, collecting upgrades like the bombs, the screw attack, the Varia suit, the ice beam, and even the long beam, yes, there is an upgrade needed to make your power beam shoot across the screen instead of just a couple of feet in front of you. You'll notice that more and more of the world becomes available to you. Samus's movement is simple. You can walk left or right, shoot up, left or right, and jump. With these limited traversal options, you can see why upgrades are required to get through this adventure. The locations are so beautiful and unique on this planet. There are places you'll never forget, like the spacious blue rooms, the lovely red rooms, and even the exotic green rooms. They connect to the world-famous yellow tunnels. Good luck climbing those without the upgrades. Just take a trip back through the exotic red? Spacious green. No, the lovely blue rooms to get topside again. How do we get out of here? The problem becomes that it's so impossible to find these upgrades that the game may become frustrating. What room is this? It looks like that other blue room. Have I been in this red room before? What about this green room? You can kind of get a feel for where each section of the map is. And remember that handy-dandy instruction manual I mentioned earlier? Well, there's a sort of map type thing in there, and that can give you a real rough idea of where to go. I highly recommend getting a real map from the internet to help guide you through your first few playthroughs of this game. Or you could be crazy like I am and go to eBay, buy a copy of Nintendo Power issue 41, which contains a detailed map and walkthrough of the whole game that explains where each item is and what it does. It also has the names of all the enemies and a bunch of fun facts about Metroid on it. Highly recommended for the collectors of Metroid stuff. But the point is, use a map. Whether you buy one, download one, or use the manual, you need to get a map. Justify it in-universe by claiming that this is Samus's home planet, and he obviously would know how to get around it. So it's okay if you use a little guidance. The way I've been playing Metroid lately is by trying to get a bit further every playthrough. I played it about 3 times with the Nintendo Power Map. Then I tried without it and got somewhat far into the game, but couldn't remember where some key upgrades were. So I caved, and I looked at the map. Then I beat the game. Tried again, got further, got lost, looked at the map, beat the game. On my most recent playthrough though, I've just arrived in Norfair for the second time. I beat Kraid, got all the primary upgrades, and now I'm ready to take on Ridley and the rest of his lava cave. I feel like this is how Metroid has been the most enjoyable for me. I like testing myself to see if I can make it further and further into the labyrinth with every attempt. It really feels like I'm exploring and finding my way through this desolate land. Like I mentioned earlier with the instruction booklets, I think it's 100% necessary to put yourself in the mind of a kid in 1986 when this game came out. You couldn't look up videos or walkthroughs on the internet. You couldn't rewind your progress with the Switch Rewind feature. You were just stuck in the world, trying to survive, which is arguably what the story is about. But I think it's more important that when you play this game, that you put yourself in that headspace. That, for me, is how I receive the most enjoyment out of this game. I think Metroid gets a bad rap because of how samey the environments feel. And that's a very valid point. There are so many rooms that look exactly the same. That being said, I think that there is some sort of enjoyment to derive from that structure. Now, there is no way that Nintendo in 1986 designed Metroid's samey-looking corridors and rooms to convey a challenge that needs to be overcome. I think his choice was dictated by the hardware and the times in which it was created. Game design was nowhere near where it is today, but I do think looking at the old game with a new age set of eyes can at least help gamers today enjoy this classic in a different way. It takes an empathetic soul to really appreciate the complications of this game. In universe, it makes sense though, because if you think of any cave you've ever seen in your life, they all pretty much look the same. Again, it just goes back to putting yourself in the mind of a gamer in 1986 when this was the newest game on the shelf. There was nothing to compare it to. You just got to play the game and try again, like an old school roguelike. Don't get me wrong, I don't think Metroid is a perfect game, but it's not as intimidating as everyone makes it out to be, especially if you break it down. And this game is hard, like old school Nintendo hard, which is hard. If you've ever played Ninja Gaiden, the first Castlevania, or the first Ninja Turtles game, then you know what I mean. The point is, you're going to die, and you will die a lot. I recommend playing on the Switch with the online service if you have it. This option allows you to rewind and retry parts of the game that are too difficult at first. If you get stuck, you can just rewind and be free again. But what really helped set this game apart, much like many Nintendo games of the era, was its ever-popular music. The music in Metroid helped offer players an added level of immersion. The beeps and boops of the planet Zebes were isolating and cold. The title music is scary and unsettling. If you listen to the whole thing, it gets a little more upbeat and kind of bops along to the words that are appearing on screen. After that, you beam down to the planet with a tune that will become a staple for the franchise in any save room. Now, you're ready to commence your mission. Brinstar offers a sense of adventure and curiosity with its theme song. After a while, you descend into Kraid's lair. What you'll hear here is a more bubbly and poppy kind of sound, but it also offers players a sense of urgency and unsettledness. Like, you need to get in, kill the guy, and get out. It almost sounds like someone might be chasing you throughout this maze of a level. When you reach Norfair from Brinstar, you'll hear a very desolate and bass-heavy song. This track conveys a sense of loneliness to the player, and when entering the lava cave that is Norfair, you will begin to contemplate what you're actually doing here. This is where the mission sinks in. You're here to destroy a gang of pirates who've been terrorizing the galaxy and murdering and stealing from everyone on multiple planets. These pirates have no regard for others' lives, and it is solely up to you, Samus Aran, to destroy them. This theme plays, and you get a real perspective of the world you're in. At the bottom of Norfair, you'll take an elevator down to Ridley's lair. This tune is probably my least favorite in the game. It's loud, disorienting, and incredibly samey. But I guess that's how they wanted you to feel when exploring the lair of what will soon be your greatest enemy. Those are good tactics employed by the space pirates. I like to think that they have speakers throughout the planet playing this music so that Samus can hear it too. If they can fry your brain a bit before you actually get to the boss fight, maybe Ridley will stand a better chance. He doesn't, but maybe. Now, you make your way through the whole planet. Again, when you cross the magic bridge to Turian, you'll hear a track that sounds really sci-fi. It has a deep bass and a lot of beeps and boops to signal that you are in it now. This is the final area of the game, and is home to the strongest enemies you've faced yet, the titular Metroids. The deep sound of this tune gets you ready for anything, and keeps you on guard to navigate these infested hallways. After you successfully avoided the life-sucking jellyfish, you'll arrive at the final challenge. This is what it's all been building towards, Mother Brain. Her theme, much like Ridley's, is very unsettling and borderline annoying. However, there's a cool undertone in there that sounds like bubbles. This makes sense for the area because of the lava and the acid and the zeptites and stuff. It fits. Once you've defeated Mother Brain, there's only one thing left to do. Take Samus and get the heck off this rock. There's a countdown that starts, which signals that the planet is going to self-destruct. The music that plays here sounds almost like a variation of the Brinstar theme, which is what you hear for a large majority of this adventure. I'm no music expert, but if that's the case, then good job on them for using the music to their advantage like that. And that's the end of the mission. You've saved the galaxy and destroyed the space pirates. Now Samus is about to take off his helmet, which I imagine is pretty hard to do with an upgraded arm cannon. Oh wait, the upgrades. I completely forgot about the upgrade rooms. They have their own music too. Theirs is awesome because it's so eerie and quiet, you can't mistake it for anything else. The best part though, is that every time you hear this tune, you know some major upgrade is nearby. Like the long beam, screw attack, space jump boots, or the Varia suit. But you know, when this track plays, you're getting that upgrade. Now, where were we? Oh yeah, Samus is going to take off his helmet. The moment has finally come. After completing the game in one of a few different ways, you'll unlock an ending to the adventure. After being congratulated for stopping the Mother Brain invasion, Samus will take their suit off. Taking longer than 10 hours to beat the game results in a final screen of Samus walking away from the camera. Taking longer than 5 hours, but less than 10 hours to beat the game, results in Samus waving to or saluting the player. Taking less than 5 hours results in the fair ending. The moment of truth. Samus takes off his helmet, and Samus is a woman? What? Okay, so this isn't a secret anymore by any means, but in 1986, I'm sure this was a crazy revolution. I remember finding out Samus was a girl after playing Super Metroid and Metroid Prime, and was like, no way. And sure enough, way. Now I was just a dumbass kid back then, in the old 2002, but I couldn't believe that I was playing as a woman this whole time. But now I realize that Samus is a badass, not just because she's a woman, but because her character is just a badass, just like Lara Croft, Jill Valentine, Aloy, Chloe Fraser, Clementine, Nadine Ross, Ellie, so many others. Samus holds her own and shows up everyone in the room. So, back to Metroid NES. Overall, I think it's an interesting adventure, and it really lays the groundwork for future titles. I'm sure it was unlike anything else that was coming out at the time, and really surprised a lot of kids back in the day. However, looking at this game through modern lenses, it doesn't really hold up. It's fun to go through to say that you did it, and I really recommend you play through on the NSO online service, with save states and rewinds and stuff. But other than that, this game should just remain a time capsule of early adventure games and be proud of itself for spawning one of my favorite game franchises of all time.